All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping headfirst into a world built on a single, reality-shattering invention. It's an alternate history filled with multiverse-spanning empires, and the really steep moral cost of that kind of power. We're going to break down how it all started, what it became, and the price paid by the soldiers fighting on its front lines.
So, let's start right in the thick of it, with a soldier named Harlan. Because, to really get a feel for the Imperium he serves, you first have to understand the brutal efficiency of its missions.
The orders are just chillingly simple, right? Strike, burn, lift, get out. This isn't about diplomacy or negotiation. No, this is a smash-and-grab job, but across dimensions. In a world defined by this impossible technology, the goal is ruthlessly simple: cripple a rival timeline and steal its secrets.
You can almost feel the tension in the air. The team is getting ready in this huge, cavernous hangar, surrounded by what the source material calls hulking brass beasts. That smell, hot metal, ozone. It's the smell of raw, dangerous power just humming, waiting to be unleashed. Now, Harlan isn't going in alone, of course. He's leading a team of specialists. You've got your demolitions guy, an engineer, a medic, and of course, the new kid. These aren't rookies. These are guys who have crossed into these dead lines, these other realities, more times than they can even count. They know the risks inside and out.
And here we see the cold, hard math of their missions. 30 seconds. That is all they get. There is absolutely no room for error and zero sentimentality. The rule is simple. The mission is worth more than any single soldier. It is efficiency taken to its absolute, brutal extreme.
And get this. This isn't some clean sci-fi teleportation with a neat little flash of light. No, the world slide. The source material describes it as this sickening lurch. You know that feeling in your gut when an elevator drops too fast? It's a physical, jarring violation of reality itself.
So you have to wonder, where did this incredible, terrifying technology come from? A soldier like Harlan and his whole world, it doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It all had to start somewhere. So let's back up. How did this all begin?
To really understand Harlan's world, we have to rewind, way back to the Gilded Age. Because the story of this multiverse-spanning empire, it doesn't start in some futuristic lab. It starts in a shed at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, with a very unlikely, world-changing partnership.
Now, in our actual history, there's no proof that Nikola Tesla and Antonio Meucci ever met. But what if they had? The timeline shows this fascinating little window where it was plausible. They were both in New York, both brilliant, overlooked immigrant inventors working on similar stuff. In this alternate timeline, their paths didn't just cross, they converged. And that changed everything.
Think of their partnership like this. Tesla brought the lightning. He had the raw, high-voltage vision to literally tear a hole in reality. But it was Meucci, with all his experience in coaxing delicate voices through wires, who provided the control. He had the steady hand, the finesse needed to calibrate the machine so it didn't just, blow up.
I mean, just picture the scene. The two previous attempts to build their device failed catastrophically. The men involved were killed. So this is it, their third and final shot. A giant coil is humming with so much power it makes the air taste like ozone, and your teeth ache. This is the moment. This is when everything changes.
This line from Tesla, it just perfectly captures the sheer ambition and, let's be honest, the hubris of the Gilded Age. It's this belief that humanity, through pure genius and force of will, can conquer any frontier, even the frontier of reality itself.
But Meucci, being older and maybe a little wiser, he gives us this chilling counterpoint. He gets it. You can't just take something from the universe without paying some kind of price. Every great power comes with a great cost. And that thought, that right there, sets the stage for everything that's about to happen.
So, the door was opened. And now we get to the consequences. The invention of the Tesla-Meucci field coil didn't just change science. It completely reshaped America and the nature of reality, basically unleashing Gilded Age ambition across the entire multiverse.
With total control over this new technology, the United States transforms. It becomes the Federal Imperium, this huge centralized power. And it achieves this incredible prosperity, not by innovating at home, but by just plundering everything it needs from other unsuspecting worlds. And you can see here the huge gap between the Imperium's promise and its reality. I mean, the official doctrine sounds pretty noble, right? But in practice, it's just pure exploitation.
They keep their own home timeline perfectly clean while treating the rest of the multiverse like an infinite pantry and a dumping ground. It honestly makes the old robber barons look like petty thieves.
And that cost Mucci warned about? It wasn't just a moral problem. It was physical. Because most timelines that tried to copy this technology failed, and that created something called the probability blight, or the desolation. These are just vast wastelands of broken reality, a constant, terrifying reminder of what happens when you get the math wrong.
So let's bring this full circle. We've seen the technology and the empire it built. Now, let's get back to Harlan and the personal price that's paid by the soldiers who have to serve this gilded Imperium. And this is where we come back to Harlan, whose job is about to get so much harder. It's not about 30-second raids anymore. His next assignment is to literally become the monster he's been fighting, to put on the face of an enemy dictator and destroy that entire world from the inside out.
And suddenly, Mucci's warning from that shed back in 1893 just echoes with this terrifying new relevance. Has the Imperium, in its endless quest to defeat its enemies, become just as ruthless? Has the very door they opened started to close in on their own humanity?
Which really leaves us with the central question here, and not just for Harlan, but for his entire civilization. What happens when your survival, your prosperity, your entire way of life depends on becoming something you're not? It's a question about where the mask ends and where the real face begins, for a single man and for an entire empire.